done that, put the fluence on it. So James, if you're okay to get us underway, please feel free to do so in your own time. Thanks.
Hi, Jos.
Hiya.
There's been a lot of talk about rotation following the Test series against India. You went home after the first Test. You're back now for the white ball leg. Do you feel better for it? Do you feel like it was the right thing to do for you?
Yeah, I do. I do feel good for the rest. I obviously spent a long time in the bubbles and over the past year or so since the pandemic started. I think it's been important for not just myself, the other guys to be able to get in and out of the bubbles, to look after people. So feeling good, really looking forward to what's going to be a great T20 series against a top side in their own conditions.
While you were away, you've seen Ben Foakes come in and impress. Is that something you're okay with as a multi-format player, the fact that your position will come under greater pressure when you're not in the team?
Yeah, I think it's something you have to accept. I think, not just in these times, but all the times whenever you're playing for England, you're always under pressure. And I think it's been a running theme for a while in English cricket. There's some fantastic wicketkeeper batsmen all pushing for that place. So I think that drives everyone on. But Ben performed fantastically well in those Test matches. He's, as everyone knows, what an amazing wicketkeeper. It's great to watch him go about it, and I've enjoyed when he's been around the squad as well, learning from him and taking motivation and inspiration to try and push my game on as well from seeing how good he is.
And Owen Morgan's spoken this week about Alex Hales. He could be reintegrated into the squad this summer. How would you feel about him coming back?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I think we're disappointed with how that episode played out. And as Owen's talked about a lot of the time, it's an element of trust needs to be rebuilt. And I know he said that it's harder to do that, obviously, in this day and age at the moment. It's hard to get people in and out of teams and of environments, so that hasn't taken place. But I'm sure when the time's right, Owen will talk to Alex and the selectors, of course. We all know what a brilliant player he is. So if he can be reintegrated into the side and playing well and warrant selection, then all for that.
Do you think enough time has passed to rebuild that trust? And do you think there'd be any bad feeling within the team now?
I think everyone's pretty grown up, and I'm sure if there were ill feelings, that nothing that couldn't be sorted out with some man-to-man conversations, I'm sure. So I think the white ball side's been together for a long time. Alex was a huge part of that for a long time as well, and I'm sure lots of the guys stay in close touch with him. So I don't foresee there being problems, and if there were, then they could be sorted out. But as Owen said for a long time, that trust needs to be rebuilt, and I'm sure that those two guys will have a conversation when the time's right.
Have you spoken about it as players, as senior players at all?
No, we haven't, no.
But presumably that you would have conversations around that, and it would be a team decision, would it?
Yeah, I'd expect so. It's probably a question for Owen more so, but I know he always leans on senior players to make his decisions. I'm sure as a group that would be a discussion.
Thanks, Jos. I'll let someone else pick up. Thank you.
Thanks.
Scott, please. Scott Taylor.
Hey, Jos. I know you went home after that first Test, but we saw with Mo there were potential discussions for him to stay on. Was there any sort of discussions with you about potentially staying on?
No, there wasn't. For a while now, obviously the ECB have been trying to plan and rest and rotation and management of players' workloads. So for a while before the series, that was sort of in place and in plan with everyone. So no, there was no more conversations around that as the tour sort of rolled on.
And there's been a lot of criticism about this rest and rotation policy, but can you just give us an insight into what it's like being on tour? Because it's easy to criticise it when you're at home with your family around you, but what's it like during a Test tour, particularly when it's not going as planned, when you're in a hotel room by yourself, essentially?
Yeah, I think we're all learning more and more about it. I think we all understood from the summer the challenges the bubble presented. It's probably even more so in England when some guys are 20 minutes down the road from their families, so you don't see for 2 or 3 months. So there's big challenges of it, and I think it's been much talked about how we can best look after players, and in what is an incredibly packed schedule at the moment. So naturally, I think even in normal circumstances, you'd be looking to manage players' workloads. You'd be looking to build a large group of players, a big squad of players who would be able to compete across all formats, in all the cricket that does come up. And I think it's rather prevent problems than react to them. And I think the ECB and the players are working closely together on that. And I think we need to get away from the idea that you just go until you break and then we leave players behind. There's so much cricket coming up. There's obviously a huge carrot of the Ashes at the end of the year. You need to be getting to that point with players in the best shape to be able to go and perform in that series, as opposed to being burnt out and no longer wanting to be in that environment. But fingers crossed, hopefully that we're coming towards the end of the pandemic and bubble life potentially as we know it. So hopefully when you come to the end of the year, that we'll be in a different place for everyone in the world, and especially in these bubble environments.
Yeah, and just talking about the pandemic itself, we saw last year when you were at the IPL, you had your family out there with you. Has there been any sort of communication from Rajasthan since it's being played in India this year about whether you're allowed your family out there with you?
Yeah, Rajasthan been very good about discussing families and trying to look after players as much as they can. I was very grateful that they allowed me to take my family to Dubai last time. I think as with everything, it's quite complicated, and with the schedule, etc., only coming out very last minute. We'll have to wait and see. But Rajasthan, again, very accommodating and understanding of players' situations. I can obviously only speak for Rajasthan, but I'm sure the other franchises are trying to take care of their players as best they can as well.
Just finally from me, we often see there's an argument that Owen Morgan often gets his full strength side every time there is a T20 series. Does that add more pressure to you guys as a squad that you, in essence, have to win the T20 World Cup now because you're getting these full strength squads for these series?
Not really. I think it's quite an inaccurate statement, to be honest. If you look back at the last summer, we didn't have a full strength squad available for those games. The only time so far I'd say we've had a full strength T20 side available has been the South Africa tour that we just went on, and obviously we've got what is at the moment our full strength squad here in India. But if you look ahead to the summer for the multi-format players, I see it that it won't be possible for the T20 side to have a full strength squad going through the summer, and I think it's quite an inaccurate statement, to be honest. So I think both Owen, Joe, Chris Silverwood and the whole of the ECB have worked closely together to try and balance things and as best as they can in what is an incredibly difficult situation. But it makes complete sense to be here in India ahead of a World Cup, which will be played in these conditions, which is probably the last time we'll have a full strength squad available to play as best we can in this series against what's an excellent India side in their own conditions.
Perfect. Good luck, Jos.
Cal from the BBC, please.
Hi, Jos. Good to see you back. So as you mentioned, there's a lot of cricket coming up for you personally now until the end of the year. A lot's already been made about squad rotation, and you're going off to the IPL in a month's time. Did you consider at all missing any of the two IPLs this winter, or playing a shorter part of it, or as we see with Mark Wood, withdrawing altogether?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need to turn your thing off as a bit of feedback. So yeah, of course, I think that's always a consideration as a player. You have, we're very grateful to the ECB for those things, and you've got to look after yourself as best you can as well. So, the IPL is obviously a huge draw for players, and is hugely beneficial not only to the individual but also to us as an England cricket side. It's a big feather in the cap that 12 players this year are in demand to play in the world's biggest tournament. And of course, the obvious benefits of player improvement, the skills you learn and the experiences you gain, especially at the moment with this IPL that will be played in India, where the World T20 will be played. But I'm sure, with everyone's individual situation, that you have to take care in that, take care of yourself as well. And I'm sure for individuals, you've got to make that decision that's best based on yourself and with the people around you.
Is there a bit of disappointment that you could potentially miss the first test against New Zealand in June? Yeah,
potentially. I think, again, it's tricky at the moment with the scheduling. Of course, the IPL holds this slot that it's always had. Obviously, the last one played out of that slot in Dubai. And those New Zealand tests have been added to a very busy schedule quite late on. So they've been put in. It's always going to be bittersweet if you're missing games of England or whatever opportunities you're missing. But I think we don't know how far players are going to get into that tournament. You don't know if you're actually going to miss them at the moment. So we'll wait and see.
And just a final one from me. Those guys who played in the 3 defeats to India in the Test series, how easy is it to then switch off from that and go into limited overs mode and almost start afresh?
Yeah, I think pretty easy actually. They're probably quite excited for a change of format. Quite excited to train and against the white ball, which allows you to obviously bat in quite a different manner than they have been having to play in the last few games. So the change of format can be great for that. It can re-energise. Obviously, there's a number of different players around at the moment who haven't been here, so that brings a lot of energy to those guys. And I know the boys are excited to get going. It's quite a different squad. Only a few left from the Test guys, but no, they're excited for the change of format.
Nice one. Cheers, Jos.
Thanks.
Paul Newman, please.
Hi, Jos. I was going to ask something similar to Cal, actually, but can I just clarify then? Were you and the other guys who are going to the IPL given the option of missing some of that when you were having these discussions as to when the best time would be for your rest? Was that ever on the table? Because you said just then that you did think about that.
Yeah, not to be honest, speaking with the ECB, but certainly individually, you have to take those things into consideration. And we all know the benefits of the IPL. It's a huge tournament. The monetary rewards are obvious, and the experience you gain. So there's so many pluses to the IPL, and I think it's been quite obvious in the upturn in the results in the white ball game in England, and the number of players that have been participating in it. Just how beneficial it is to all of us. So it makes it a tough decision. Of course, the schedule at the moment is very tough, and there's no perfect balance to it. And the ECB and the players work closely together to try and manage that. So is there a perfect answer at the moment? But no, and especially not in the times that we're operating at the moment.
So the ECB never actually said, look, do you guys want to miss some of the IPL this year because we're in unique circumstances? They never put that on the table as such.
Not as such. I don't think that I haven't had that. I don't know for the other players.
So I just think, because you've obviously worked so hard to establish yourself in Test cricket, you've always made it clear you want to play Test cricket. You had a great summer and the start of this winter. It must have been very hard to walk away from Test cricket at that stage when you've cracked it, really.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever quite cracked it, but certainly was enjoying playing and felt the improvements. But know how it's only a very short while ago that lots of people were saying I shouldn't be playing. So no, I know what you're saying, but I think having the understanding of knowing I was going to be missing games as everyone has been during this period, I think just have to have an acceptance of that. I know it's. In my opinion, it is at the moment impossible to play all games and all formats. So I just think that's the situation we're in at the moment.
Thank you.
Matt Roller, please.
Hi, Jos. During the T20 series in South Africa just before Christmas, I think you spoke about learning from some of the West Indies batsmen in terms of their mentality and backing their six hitting. Could you just expand on that a little bit and sort of what brought about that mindset change?
Yeah, I think more so just sort of, like you say, continuously learning and looking at other players and how they sort of set up their own innings or chasing numbers and targets down. And I think for me, I've always sort of wanted to operate around a run rate and trying to, make sure I'm up with a rate as such, sometimes chasing it and sometimes would feel like I force issues sometimes and sit in the dressing room and think I've tried to force it maybe a bit early. And having watched other players in the IPL and in other international games seem to sort of maintain a calm look on it and see chasing as, we need to hit 7 sixes in the remaining 5 overs. Or so I'd never really myself thought of it like that before. And so actually just trying to bring that a bit more into my game and into my sort of mathematics of chasing scores down, not looking at sort of the runs per balls or the overs, the runs and over that's required, actually sort of saying, well, if we hit X amount of sixes, that will win us the game. Just a change of mindset and like I say, continually learning.
Is there any particular player or particular innings that sparked that?
No, not really. I think there's a number of guys who seem to look at the game like that. So it's probably a bit embarrassed that I hadn't sort of picked up on that sooner, to be honest. But no, I think there's certain players who tend to. I've always been someone who, when especially chasing, like to be in and around the rate. But there's other guys who seem to allow that rate to get larger, but backing their six hit. It's more about me backing my six hitting ability than focusing it on too much and not feeling that I can rely on it if I need it.
Thanks.
Rory Dollard, please.
Hi, Jos. These are obviously your first T20s of a World Cup year. You touched on it a little bit there, but with the tournament being in India and even in all likelihood, the final will be in Ahmedabad. How vital do you think having a 5-match series out there to learn, to work on combinations, to feel more at home in those conditions? How important is that for the team?
Yeah, absolutely, hugely important. I think it's a great benefit of us, being here to be able to play in Ahmedabad, a brand new stadium, which, like you say, will probably play a big part in the World Cup. That no one's played here before, so that's a big advantage for us to learn about this particular stadium and the conditions. And I think as a T20 side, the and a white ball side in general, the sort of conditions that we generally struggle against as the pitches get slower and the ball takes more spin, and having a different game plan as such for that. So we don't know exactly how the wickets are going to play in this stadium, but you would have thought having the 5 matches all at the same ground, they may start to slow up and take some spin. And I think if we look back to where we played in the World T20 here in 2016, I think it was, we generally played on excellent wickets, but in the other side of the draw, the games that at Nagpur were quite low scoring in a different style. So that might be something that comes into this tournament, which would be good exposure for us as a group, as I know Owen Morgan's talked about before with some of the wickets we've tried to play on back in England.
Hi,
Chris
Jos.
Stocks, please.
Hi, Jos. Similar to Rory, really, and the importance of this series, I'm guessing, in a World Cup year is huge. I just wondered, as one of the favourites for the tournament, coming up against another one of the big favourites, how much of an opportunity is this for you guys to make a statement of intent ahead of the tournament coming up?
Yeah, a big opportunity. Like you say, you going into World Cups, you probably look at host nations, one especially as strong as India, are going to be favourites for that tournament. So it's a great exposure for us to play against what will be one of the best teams in the tournament in these conditions. So it's vital for us to play well and hopefully we want to win the series and take that confidence, and also to gel together as a group and have that role clarity ahead of the World Cup. So it's a fantastic opportunity for us as a side to be playing against this team in World Cup conditions.
Would you say then India are favourites ahead of you for the World Cup, just because they're at home?
Yeah, I think there's a number of excellent teams out there, but I think the last few World Cups in lots of different places have shown host nations tend to perform very well. India are, of course, phenomenally strong in every format, and T20 is no different. So especially being at home, I sort of see India as the favourites.
Two more now, please. Nick Holt and then John Etheridge. Nick?
Oh, hi, Jos. Just a quick one. Did you, if Rajasthan reach the final of the IPL, I think it finishes May the 30th, and the first test at Lords is June the 2nd, will you stay in India or will you come back and play in the first test?
I think have to wait and see, obviously, where Rajasthan get to. I think the ECB and have said recently, haven't they, that it looked like the IPL, if you're involved in that, you'd be staying in the IPL. I think that agreement was probably in place before the New Zealand tests were announced. So I think the ECB are just keeping consistent with where they were at before those games got put into the schedule.
And what would you say to I guess some England fans might think that England should come first, regardless of when the schedule is set up ahead of playing for a team in India?
Yeah, I completely understand where they'd be coming from. We're in a far from perfect situation, and I don't really have an answer to come back with it, to be honest.
Okay, cheers, thanks.
John Etheridge, please, last of all.
Jos, yeah, I was going to ask something similar to Nick there, really. I mean, do you think it's unrealistic to expect professional cricketers with families to support and so on to, forego the money that is available in the IPL? Is that ship pretty much sailed now?
I think, the IPL is obviously very advantageous for a lot of people with the money that's involved. The tournament is probably the biggest tournament in the whole of cricket, isn't it, really, in terms of money? So those big careers can be short, but of course we know that playing for England is a huge draw for everyone, and we're very well remunerated playing for England as well. We're very fortunate in that case as well. So I completely understand there's going to be certain people who have a certain opinion one way, and others will have another one as well. But all I can say is that the IPL, I think, has had an outstanding effect on English cricket so far, and the individuals involved in it, obviously financially, but from the cricket it's produced and the players we're producing now in white ball cricket. So that's all I really can say on it.
Thank you, Jos. Thanks.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.